The paddock emptied, and instead of Alphas and Bugattis, the petrol was pumped into the war effort. Because of an airfield on the site, which was used for military purposes, Brooklands was camouflaged with a forest of trees. As a racetrack, it was finished. Today, the drivers at Brooklands have run out of road. A 1936 Bugatti, and believe me, it goes like the clappers. Brooklands ceased to be a racetrack in 1939 at the outbreak of war. It's owned today by the British Aircraft Corporation. And naturally, when you're building Concords, you don't have much use for vertical banking and for S-bends with glamorous names like Dunlop's Delight, so called, incidentally, because of the amount of rubber that used to be burnt off those screeching tires. Brooklands may have died, but it isn't forgotten. Members of the Brooklands Society have been scavenging among the weeds and the ghosts for the past 8 months. They're intent on preserving what remains of the track. What really is the point of clearing large areas of the track like this? Because after all, you'll never again be able to race here.
Well, it's basically to stop the rot, you know. It's got into quite a state with all the vegetation and so forth. And we feel that it's a shame that it should be allowed to go like this. It was, after all, the world's first motor racing track. And we would like to restore as much of it as we possibly can. And maintain it, you know, well, for posterity, I suppose. Well, we've done about half a mile of it so far. And there's probably another mile or so to go, maybe a mile and a half.
More than 40 years ago, these two were deadly rivals. They were both star drivers. At the wheel, Kaye Don. In the passenger seat, the incredible Sammy Davis, who's now 86.
The days when Sammy Davis and myself used to race her, it was an entirely amateurish event.
That would indicate that you would have had to have had a moneyed, well-heeled background. Was that the case?
Well, either that or a works, you see. I mean, I always drove for a firm, for instance, and one didn't get paid, but one didn't pay anything.
I think it was essential, if you wanted success, to have a factory behind you, because the research that was required to keep cars in trim and do the speed you had to do without a factory behind you would have been almost impossible.
You were always poor, were you?
I was always what?
You were always poor.
Yes.
Not in the real sense of the word.
No, not in the real sense of the word, but I mean, as I didn't have to pay for anything, and I didn't have to pay my own expenses, you see.
Well, you got by very well.
Got by all right.
No question about that, remarkably well.
Provided, mind you, you did what you were told for the firm for whom you were driving.
You two, of course, must have been great competitors in those days.
Yes,
Yes?
we were. Yes, Sammy Davis and Birkin.
Yes.
Bonato, Cobb.
Yes.
They were all men that were travelling pretty fast.
What sort of speeds would you do on this stretch, for instance?
Well, on my 4-litre Sunbeam, when I was lapping, say, at 135, I would come round here at about 140, 42 maybe, down the railway straight at the speed of about 150, then easing the foot slightly to go onto the Byfleet banking, getting on that at about 140.
It certainly seemed to be rather more colourful racing then than it is now.
Oh, well, it was tremendous fun. Well, I mean, the sort of thing that happened that was amusing was I was coming round this bend we were talking of, and there was a shed belonging to Vickers aircraft people. And exactly at the moment that I came to the bend, one of their mechanics opened the door and stepped out. Now, I've never seen a man do a backward, angular high jump as quickly as he did. But on the other hand, don't forget this, that if we hadn't had this track, the British cars couldn't have raced at all. Because, for instance, in the very early days, when we were racing Daimlers, the Coventry Daimlers, we had to race on the Coventry, we had to try the cars out on the Coventry-Kenilworth Road at 5 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and we could only have 3 runs before the entire neighbourhood began to telephone the police. We got an arrangement with the police, but it was unofficial.
This became a great testing ground,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, not only for cars, but accessories. The
Yes.
tyre people used to come and test their tyres here, and many other things.
It's not just concrete preservation. The Brooklands Society want to preserve that certain indefinable mystique, the spirit and the romance of a bygone era.
There was nothing like Brooklands, and there never will be again. Racing today is fun, but unless you know the people who are driving, you might as well watch a lot of clockwork cars. They all look so alike. But here you could see the chaps really wrestling with the cars and really driving them, you know.